you know, obviously agritourism comes from agriculture plus tourism. And we also like to think of agritourism as education. Farm Trails was founded in 1973 by a group of forward-thinking farmers who were trying to facilitate more direct sales so that the public could find the producers. And of course, this is back before farmers markets, before CSAs, before the internet, before farmers and producers could easily sell to local restaurants and grocery stores because of distribution laws. So the original intent of Farm Trails was to get people out visiting the local farm stands to find out where they are, to produce, to amplify direct sales. And over the years, a lot has changed, of course, and part of our understanding has become that we have two important branches. One is the marketing of the local producers, and the second is to educate the public about the importance of supporting local food systems. So that's why I say that I think the tours are enormously educational, and agritourism is in general. So here's our mission statement: to ensure the continuing economic viability of Sonoma County agriculture by instilling an appreciation of ag as a vital part of our community and lifestyle. This is the very old school original map. It was a fold out back in 1973. And you'll notice here how many apple farms there were, how few wineries there were. So we still have a super diverse membership. We've got, you know, anywhere annually from 150 to 200 members. And the makeup of our membership has changed quite a lot over the years. We have a ton of cheesemakers, we have nurseries, we have regenerative ranchers, we have olive oil, we have value-added products like jams. I'm gonna keep talking and just give you some eye candy while I talk, and then I'm gonna go into three main topics. One is what we do for our members, how we market them, how we approach our tours, and then finally, just a little bit about some considerations you might want to think about if you want to start a Farm Trails agritourism type organization. So these are some of our farm stands. And again, this kind of harkens back to the original concept of Farm Trails, was getting folks to get out and buy directly at the farm stands. But of course, over the years, it became less viable to staff up a farm stand all the time. And so farmers started moving to farmers markets. They started CSAs. This is one of our lovely CSAs, Pink Barn Farm. And connecting with the public also through, internet sales and, like I mentioned, restaurants and grocery stores. This is just showing you a bit of the diversity of the agricultural businesses in Sonoma County. Flower farming is a huge new industry or local business that is really blooming in recent years. This is Singing Frog Farms, one of the really stellar no-till farms who are leaders nationally. And we have farm-to-table restaurants. So this is the mapping guide from 2017 and 18, like you can see, with some inserts. I have here, I don't know if y'all can see me still. Oops. Our latest mapping guide. So from a pinup, it's turned into quite a production, like sometimes a 36 to 42 page exploration of the local members and their different regions. So how do we benefit our members? We have a listing in the mapping guide, like I was just showing you. We have a dynamic searchable website. This is a screenshot from our shelter in place. Of course, this has been our reality in the past year. So we quickly mobilized to set up resources for the public to connect them to CSAs, to who was delivering, where could you get takeout. And I'll encourage you, I'm not going to try screen sharing my website right now, but I'll encourage you to check it out, because we do have numerous portals for people to search and find products and services through our website. So multiple entry points. We also have a high impact newsletter. Ellen Cavalli, our project manager, does an awesome job of sending out public newsletters that feature, what our members are doing seasonally. And again, I tried to screenshot for y'all, but I hope you'll sign up for it. It was just, I couldn't get enough of it on the screen to make it worthwhile for the slide. We do marketing campaigns. So this is one of our, is this Facebook or Instagram? I think this is Instagram. This was of a pumpkin patch this fall, and you can see that it reached over 1,500 people. For our social media, we have 6,500 followers on Facebook. We have over 3,200 on Instagram, and we have over 8,000 subscribers to our newsletter. So I think that's a big benefit of being part of an agritourism organization, is the extended reach that you get. And so Ellen is constantly tracking our members on social media, boosting their posts, sharing their posts. And then we also do dedicated campaigns for our tours, such as Holiday Along the Farm Trails, Weekend Along the Farm Trails, the Spring Tour, Blossoms, Bees, and Barnyard Babies. We can't wait to bring these back. Of course, all of them got canceled last year because of the pandemic. We tried doing gift crates a couple of years, and the margins for us were pretty slim, and it was a lot of work, but it's a lovely concept. And I know folks in other regions are doing this successfully. And here's Ellen, our project manager, on the KTVU TV in San Francisco. So we do have a professional publicist who is working all the time to get earned press and good stories about Farm Trails events and also about our members. And so I'd say for sure that's another benefit of being part of the organization, is the access to not only the marketing and advertising that we do, but the stories that do indeed get published. We go on radio stations with our members. Oftentimes I'll go on Steve Jackson's or Clark Wolf's radio show and take a couple of producers with us as we're gearing up for tours to get the public excited. And what else do I want to say? We also do advocacy and outreach for our members. So we, anything that benefits agriculture as a whole, not just our members, but all of agriculture in Sonoma County, like, the cottage food industry or the meat processing regulations, which are, that's been an exciting development lately of mobile meat processing. We'll go advocate on behalf of our members for ministerial permits, anything that can make it easier to be successful and to minimize the bureaucracy and clarify the expectations on permits and regulations in Sonoma County. So I told you that when Farm Trails started, every producer on the map was open to the public regularly. And over the years that changed. And so Farm Trails had I think a really elegant solution, which was to create organized seasonal tours where the public could go out on the trails. So the historic ones we do are the Blossoms, Bees, and Barnyard Babies in the spring, and Weekend Along the Farm Trails in the fall. And these are just some shots of different workshops and guided tours. There's Bill from Montebellaria that happen on the farm trails. And the benefit of this, and I'll talk more about some of the logistics and specifics, but overall the benefit for the members is that they don't have to staff up all the time. They just have a dedicated weekend. They can participate for 1 or 2 days, and they prepare their property. We do all the marketing. We do all the communications with the attendees, and they just have to show up, staff up, and greet the public. And for most of our members, it's bumper sales that weekend. The highest tour that we've ever had was 10,000 attendees on the spring tour a couple years back over the course of the weekend, visiting over 50 destinations. And for our members, the various destinations, they had between 20 to 500 attendees over the course of the weekend. And a lot of that depends on how large their operations are, how much parking they had, and to be quite honest, baby animals. Like the folks who have animal experiences tend to have the most traffic. So this is the program that we prepared for the fall tour in 2019. And just to give you a sense of some of the sorts of activities, from, cheese tours and tasting, cider and wine, animal interactions, traditional farm stands, flower sales, kids games and activities, plant sales, pumpkins and you-pick, and then various tours. And then this is the guided tour workshop schedule for that weekend, so you can see what was happening on Saturday and Sunday. We like to delineate and try to give the information in as many ways as possible to the public. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that, because over the weekend, not every member participates both days. So in the program that we send out to the attendees, we especially want to spell out, are they open Saturday and Sunday? Is it just Saturday? Is it just Sunday? Is there an extra fee involved? And then this was from the spring tour. Similarly, you can see just the incredible range of offerings. And we do ask of our members that they, when we're starting the tours, we think about what would be a compelling tour. And we certainly try to get people who are in the same trail. So for instance, if you've got someone over in Sonoma Valley, we'll try to get a cluster of folks, because of course that drives more interest if you've got more availability in that regions. And it's realistic for people to stop at 3 to 6 farms in one day. These are tips for the trails that we send out. Okay, I'm going to quit sharing my screen so I can not get distracted by the pictures. Let's see, how do I do that? Eek. Stop share. Okay, there we go. So we start by thinking about what are the stops. We ask our members to, at a minimum, give a self-guided tour for folks, but a lot of our members offer guided tours. They offer workshops, demonstrations. Some of them have live music. Some of them offer picnic areas. Some collaborate with food vendors to bring in a food truck. Tons of educational opportunities. And then also, like I said, the animal interactions, which are super popular with the families. So once we do that, we start creating the program, which we send to the public. So what Farm Trails does are two different elements: our communication with the public and our communication with the hosts. And so with the public, we have landed on having all of our tours be free to the public. But we do require that people RSVP. So they sign up through Eventbrite is who we're using. It's free, but that way, a couple things. One, we can keep our finger on the pulse of how many people we're expecting. And two, we can capture their emails, not for future use or for newsletters. We definitely have people opt in for that. So we don't grab their emails to build our newsletter list per se, but we do want to be in touch with them if there are any last minute changes. and updates. And then also we send them the program that way. So we send, a couple of emails preparing them. You saw the slide for tips for the trails, like reminding them to bring a cooler, wear good walking shoes, never bring pets, even if you think you can keep them in the car. That's really, can be stressful to the farm animals. And bringing cash can be a good idea, although nowadays a lot of folks have, it's much easier to use Square for purchases. So we send along the updates to them. And then the other benefit of that is you can afterwards send a survey out so we can measure our success. Like, what did you love about the tour? What destinations, really excited you? Was there anything confusing? How did the technology work? How did you hear about us? So we can see how effective our marketing strategies have been. And again, we market through flyers, through online calendar postings, through Facebook, Instagram, social media, placing print, doing radio. We've tried the whole gamut. And to be honest, word of mouth is the highest. And Facebook, although just side note, Facebook rules are changing in terms of targeting. So I don't know if that will continue, but that has certainly been a huge way that we've reached the public. And from those surveys, we hear that like 75% of the guests purchase products while on the trail. So that's part of our rationale in keeping the tours free as well, is that we want our visitors to spend their dollars on site with the producers. And then the other piece of that is just the logistics of creating a passport and having to check to make sure people have tickets. We haven't quite had the bandwidth to do that. So for us, it's much, much easier to have them be completely free to the public. And it also, an element that we like is that it minimizes the exclusivity. So it's something that that really everyone in the community can do. And we found there've been so many anecdotes over the years of just that I've experienced personally out on the trails, seeing kids from the city who are connecting with farm animals for the very first time. And it always gives me chills and tears. It's just astonishing the impact of being on the site. I mean, it's amazing to be at farmers markets and to meet the producers and to get recipes. But as y'all know, it's just a whole nother level to be on site, on the farm, learning the cost of well-grown food too. You see all of the work that goes into it. You see how they manage their soil, how they treat their animals. And for the producers, we find oftentimes that they have, not only a boost in sales, but they have a connection with the public, and probably, I mean, for many of them, lifelong customers who, for instance, if they go out to Stemple Creek Ranch and then they see that beef on a menu, they're like, oh my gosh, I know that place, I know that farmer. And so we think it's a great way for the public to understand more about local food systems, to really value and appreciate farmers who are certainly local heroes, and to establish connections and channels for purchases. On the host side of things, we make sure that they review the program carefully, make sure all the details are dialed in and accurate, especially the address. That's another note I would make, is that cell phone reception can be spotty. So we always encourage attendees to check their route in advance, print out the map, make sure that they know where they're going, and we give them a lot of assistance that way in terms of front loading the resources, but we want them to be aware that you can't always just Google something while you're out.
Excuse me, Carmen.
Yes.
Hi. If we have a few questions, so
okay.
if you want to leave a little time for questions at the end of your talk would be great.
Okay, I will try to wrap it up real quick. Let me just tell you a couple more things about what we do for the hosts. We ask them to help promote, to share, and tag us in the social media campaigns. We give them social media kits. We encourage them to follow public health guidelines. We require a certificate of insurance naming farm trails as additional insured to protect our liability. Some of our members choose to do their own waivers when guests come on their property, and it's not bulletproof, but it's kind of just another awareness piece that people are have an understanding of, like, I'm walking on a farm, there's equipment, there are potholes. I'm aware of, I'm taking responsibility for myself and my family while I'm on site. We also encourage our members to have really good signage in terms of their entryway, in terms of their schedule, in terms of parking. We found certainly that having staff or volunteers on site really helps to direct the parking and also to welcome the visitors so that they feel like they get a nice greeting and then they have an understanding of what's happening. Another thing we've learned over the years is to send to our host participants extra copies of the program. And we also, in recent years, have started making cheat sheets for them to post around, like on construction paper, telling what are the nearest destinations, like in case you're on this trail and you forgot your program, which happens, these are the nearby stops you can get to. And so it's nice to have kind of the cross-pollination of the hosts sharing information about who's nearby on the trail and directing folks to that. And then of course we always ask for feedback from the hosts, so that we can continue to improve the tours. I can stop there and just.
Well, can you give us a little advice for other county people that might be looking to start?
Sure. I think a couple of considerations. One is, how are you going to fund the organization? Farm Trails is really lucky in that we, when the founders of Farm Trails started the organization in 1973, they also started an annual fundraiser, the Gravenstein Apple Fair, which until this past year funds all of our operations. So our tours are free to the public and they're free to our members. They don't pay an additional fee to be part of the tour. So everything that we do in terms of the production of the mapping guide, the website updates, the tour marketing, the seasonal marketing, our scholarships, that all comes out of the revenue, mostly from the Gravenstein Apple Fair. So it is a question of resources, how to fund it. Another consideration would be, if you formalize an organization, do you want a 501c3 nonprofit or a 501c6? Farm Trails started out as a C6 membership organization, and that has precluded us from being eligible for quite a lot of funding, for grants, initially for PPP funding, which nobody had thought about before. So my recommendation would be, because there is such a strong educational component to agritourism, that if you organize as a C3, then you can receive charitable contributions and you'll be much more likely to be able to receive funding for your initiatives. And then some of the things you would want to consider is, like, do you charge for tours? Now, we encourage and allow our members, if they want to charge for a special workshop, a special tour, a special demonstration, they can do that separately from Farm Trails while on the tour, and we make sure to let the public know that. So I don't think it's problematic to charge for tours. We have just made kind of a global decision not to. And another piece is that we have allowed the tours to be really free-form and self-guided. Like, you don't have to sign up at particular destinations. We found that has been more, it's been easier to manage, to have a looser structure that way. I think that in the beginning, the Farm Trails, all of the Farm Trails was, there wasn't staffing for years. So the farmer members actually ran all of the tours. I think that's certainly possible to do. It's just a lot of work. Especially now that, there's so many just the tech involved with the marketing and the program production.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm happy to take questions.
Okay.
Great. To kick us off, Carmen, if you're willing to share, how much is the membership to be a part of Sonoma County Farm Trails?
Sure. It's $175 annually. And for old time, like for renewing members, we often offer, or not often, we always offer an early bird special of $150 a year. And so that includes all of the marketing that we do for the membership. It includes the listing and the printed mapping guide. It includes the tours. And one thing I didn't mention, Farm Trails has kind of an umbrella permit for our tours. So the producers on those weekends do not have to get a special events tour. And I think that's a big benefit of organizing as an agritourism group.
Excellent. And that also answers another question about permitting. If anybody else has any other questions, I think we'll have another couple of moments. So go ahead and feel free to put them in the chat box.
Are there wineries on the tour? Yes, there are. From the beginning, we had winery members, not even a handful, but there were a few of them. So we're a big tent. We have wineries. We have a lot of cideries now, and we do include them on our tours and oftentimes facilitate collaborations between having a cidery and a food truck come to a farm so that, there's kind of more juice at that destination. Or vice versa, having a cheesemaker come to a winery during a tour.
Okay, another question. And how large is your staff?
Our staff? Mm-hmm. We are a staff of 2, and currently we are a staff of 2 at 50% because, so we had 2 full-time staff members for the last 5 years. Previous to that, it was 1.5. And before that, for decades, it was just 1 full-time staff person. And then when the pandemic hit and we realized that we were going to have to cancel our primary annual fundraiser, both Ellen and myself scaled back to half-time, theoretically. And that's just to manage the budget deficit until we can get stable again. And then we also have a part-time publicist who, Holly Hansen, who's awesome, and she really helps us get a lot of earned press in the media.
And another question is, how do the organizational members work?
This is for me. I know you have organizations that are members. So what's that relationship like?
Yeah, so we call those partner members. So that would be like Community Alliance of Family Farms, the Food System Alliance, the Farm Bureau, organizations that are focused on ag. And so they get visibility in our mapping guide as partners. And we certainly on social media share their offerings. One thing I didn't mention, we also have a pretty robust newsletter for our members. So there's a newsletter to over 8,000 public that promotes our member offerings, our tours and events, everything that Sonoma County Ag is doing that we're aware of. And then we have an internal newsletter to our members that lets them know about upcoming workshops, like say through UC Cooperative Extension, about funding opportunities, about, which in these days has a lot to do with the pandemic, different resources that they need to be aware of. So.
Okay, I think we'll take probably one last question. Which farms are most popular or have the most requested activities besides animals?
Okay. U-Pick is super popular. And so we've dialed out even just a you pick section on our website and in the program for the tours, because people love getting out, whether it's the opportunity to pick lavender, pick apples, pick pumpkins, Christmas trees, berries. I would say that's a super popular one. And then the globally. And then I think that the tours that are guided, or the workshops and the demonstrations that are scheduled, which is another thing that we encourage our members to do, is to, say like have a 11 a.m. and a 2 p.m. tour. I think those are more, well, it depends on the person. Those can be super compelling for people who really want to learn. And then other people are like more drawn to the self-guided tour where they can just kind of wander the property. But we have heard a lot of appreciation from the public about the really generous and engaging offerings that the members provide. And they love getting to connect directly with the producers.
And just for anybody who isn't keeping an eye on the chat, I do want to highlight that Bill McElroy, who is his lavender farm is a member, shouted out that his farm about triples in business on the weekends that you host these events. So they certainly have a big impact. And I would just love to have if you have any big picture takeaways, if any organization is going to be thinking about putting on one of these weekends, what are maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3, words of caution or number one things to consider? So they're huge undertaking.
To set up for, do you mean to create the organization or to set up for a tour?
Yes, I think if there's an organization that isn't holding, these huge weekend farm tours, and they want to add this to the offerings for their members.
Mm-hmm. I would say some of the most important things, just to reiterate, would be to staff up, to understand that we live in a much more litigious society than we used to. Although I'm going to knock on wood, of all of the tours that we've done over the almost 48 years now, we've only had one member get into a lawsuit over an injury on a farm. So, I mean, it's just always a balance, but, to make sure you have your ducks in a row with insurance, with permits, especially if you're serving food, and to be really clear about the marketing and promotion in terms of specificity about when you're open, what's allowed, how to RSVP, just to put the message out as many different ways as you can to help manage expectations.
Thank you so much. Penny, we'll hand it over to you.